Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Kyle Straub, one half of the radio broadcast team for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Today I will be breaking down the Tar Heels Regional. North Carolina hosting for the second straight year. They'll be joined by Purdue, the number 2 seed, Houston, the number 3 seed, and North Carolina A&T as the number 4 seed. North Carolina will actually take on NC A&T at 2 o'clock on Friday instead of the traditional 7 o'clock. The number 1 seed usually gets to pick where they want to start playing, and typically you get a bigger crowd on a Friday night when you're at home. But Coach Fox gave us a little explanation earlier today on why they wanted to start at 2, and here is Coach.
Because we're ready to play. I've actually been wanting to play the first game now for several regionals, and it's just either haven't done it or been talked out of it or just been given another reason. But I decided this year I think it's better for our kids just to get up and play, not have to wait. Weather's a little bit of a factor, just kind of knowing what's going on. You never know when there's delays and stuff, and I'd rather be delayed at 2 than at 9.
Gotta love that laugh from Coach Fox. I agree with him. If you're going to get a rain out or a delay like last year against Davidson, have it happen earlier, especially if somehow you lose that first game. You got to turn around and play the early game on Saturday. So if you're playing at 2 o'clock or if it gets pushed back for a little bit because of rain, you're still playing earlier enough where you're able to rest, recover, and then come back to the ball field the next day for what would potentially be an elimination game. The team that North Carolina will be taking on, a team that they took on earlier this season, North Carolina A&T, a 1-0 win for the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. Rodney Hutchison with a complete game shutout for the Tar Heels in that one. And to be honest with you, both North Carolina and the Aggies, very different teams from that matchup way back in March. A&T has been really hot lately with the bats, especially getting Donovan Smith back. He missed 9 games. One of those 9 were against the Tar Heels, and he leads the team in just about every offensive category for the Aggies. 340 average, 47 runs scored, 44 RBI, and 8 home runs, slugging .605 on the year. So he's going to be a big part in that lineup. And you talk about teams that get hot at the right time. Well, recently, North Carolina A&T has been one of the hottest teams. They struggled to score runs early in the season. If you go back and look at their schedule all the way to basically the end of March, it's about half the schedule. They had only had 1 game where they scored 9 or more runs. They have done that 7 times in their last 8 games. They absolutely just destroyed the competition and ran through the MEAC. And it really even dates back prior to that. The last 8 games, they've scored 102 runs. On the season, they've scored 349. So they scored a third of their runs, essentially, in the last 2 weeks of the regular season and into their conference tournament. Team that the bats are coming around. They're hitting really well right now. But like I've said all season long, I'll take good pitching over good hitting any day. And North Carolina's pitching has been just as good as anybody. And Cooper Criswell is going to get the start for the Tar Heels in that opening game. Coach Fox talked about it a little bit with Gianluca Delatri being back. Some people question whether he would get the start or not, but Coach said Cooper recovers really quickly, and that's part of the reason that they're going to give him the start tomorrow against the Aggies. If North Carolina needed to go to that decisive winner-take-all Monday game, Cooper would be available. Gianluca is only going to be out there 1 time this weekend. Coming off of the injury, he will get his start, and that will be it. So they're going to give him the start in the second game, who will be against the winner of Purdue and Houston, and we'll get to both of those teams in a little bit here. I talked to a couple of the players earlier today, both Brandon Riley and Zach Gahagan. And with Zach, one of the questions that was asked was the depth of this North Carolina team. It's one of the strengths for the Tar Heels. It has helped them win a few games, and primarily the transfers. Here's what Zach had to say about those new guys and how they have impacted the Tar Heels this season.
Yeah, so they've been a big part of our team, off the bench especially. I mean, we knew they had to be a big part of this team, so when we brought them in, they kind of knew what to expect, and we welcomed them, and it's been history from there. But they've been a good asset to this team, and they've played big roles, especially Hesley.
Also asked Zach about last year, asked Brandon Riley as well, North Carolina didn't have any experience except for Adam Pate going into last year's regional. So I was curious, what have they learned from that experience last year, and did it change anything for their preparation coming into this year?
I think the experience, yeah. I mean, as far as my class last year, we hadn't been to the postseason in my freshman and sophomore year. So to get that experience under our belt, I think we got a lot of guys confident there to keep going.
And that was the theme from both Zach and his teammate Brandon Riley.
Well, I think the one thing we learned from last year is that the national seed doesn't really matter if you can't get past the regional. So we're really just focused on getting this first game, getting that under our belt, getting a win there, and then moving on to the next one and just treating it one game at a time rather than looking forward to what we have next week potentially or what we have coming up after the regional. We really just have to worry about the first game and get that win under our belt.
North Carolina will be going against Tim Luth, the righty for North Carolina A&T in that opening game. 3.55 ERA, 6-2 on the year. He's got the most innings pitched for the Aggies this season, 88 2/3. He has been prone to home runs and extra base hits, though. Breaking ball guy, he's got to keep it down in the zone. If he can control it, he might have some success against his Tar Heel offense, but if he keeps that ball up in the zone and hangs some, we've seen North Carolina's offense powerful enough, potent enough that 1 through 9, they can really get after him. And if that's the case, you get into a bullpen who has got a couple of good guys in there, but you wonder the quality of opponents that North Carolina A&T plays in the MEAC. Is it going to be up to snuff against an ACC team like North Carolina? Brandon Riley was then actually asked by somebody else a little bit later why he thought this year was going to be different from last year, and this is what Brandon had to say.
I think it's because of last year, because we know, nothing's given to us, nothing's going to be handed over because we're hosting. So I think everyone kind of has that chip on their shoulder from last year.
Gotta love hearing that if you're a Tar Heel fan. There's not going to be any looking past or looking over any opponents this season. Not that that's what the Tar Heels did last year, but it won't be an issue this year. They're going to be ready to play game 1. And if North Carolina does get past North Carolina A&T, they've got a couple of tough teams that could be awaiting them. Purdue got the number 2 seed coming out of the Big Ten this year. Purdue with really a stellar year, 37-19. They went 17-6 in the Big Ten. First time in the tournament, though, since 2012. So North Carolina A&T, first time in the tournament, no experience. Purdue, first time in the tournament for everybody on that roster, no experience. We'll see how much of a factor that has to play in as the weekend plays out. But Purdue, just like North Carolina and just like A&T, been playing their best ball towards the end of the season. 21 of their last 24 games have been victories for the Boilermakers, and they've got a big-time bat in the middle of their lineup. Jackson McGowan, the power hitter, will lead their way offensively. You look at McGowan's numbers on the year. He hit .302, 12 home runs, 56 RBI, and the slugging percentage and on-base percentage through the roof. 545 slugging and a 448 on-base percentage. Purdue is a team that relies heavily on scoring runs. Just one starter with a sub-3 ERA, and that is Tanner Andrews. Expect him to go against Houston. So if it were to be a North Carolina matchup, you get probably a Ryan Beard or a Gareth Stroth, both with 4.2 and 4.6 ERAs, a little bit more manageable. All three of their pitchers will give you some walks. That lends to a North Carolina team that is very patient at the plate. They will take their walks and try and produce runs that way. But you got to limit the offense for Purdue. They've got 6 guys hitting over 283 on the year. As a team, they hit 280. They've scored 327 runs. Just a very balanced Boilermaker team, and they had one of their best seasons in program history. They're riding high, and they're going to hope to continue that hot streak of 21 of their last 24 and keep it rolling into this NCAA tournament. They are going to run into a very tough team, though. I think Houston is probably the toughest team in this region, the biggest threat to North Carolina to defeat them. Houston is a team that perennially is in the NCAA tournament. I think they have made it now 4 out of the last 6 years. See if I can't find my notes on them here. Yeah, 4 out of the last 5 years, and this is their second straight. So Houston is the one team besides the Tar Heels with some experience. And 36-23 this year. They went 16-8 in the American, and actually in the last poll, they're ranked 19th in the country according to D1 Baseball. So a ranked opponent that got a 3 seed, partially because of the way they finished. Unlike the other 3 teams in this region, they struggled down the stretch. They swept ECU in Greenville. It was a big-time win for them. It actually helped them win the American regular season, but just 8-7 down the stretch. That's part of the reason they get that 3 seed, but make no doubt about it, they are a very dangerous team, or Houston, and it's because of their 1-2 punch. They've got really good starting pitching. Aaron Fletcher, the lefty, will go against Houston. He was the AAC Pitcher of the Year this year. Trey Cumby, who will go Saturday, whether it is against A&T or the Tar Heels. Who knows? Who knows if it'll be in a winner's bracket or loser's bracket. But Cumby was the AAC Pitcher of the Year in 2017. So in that second matchup, you have a very offensive-minded Purdue team against a very pitching and defensive-minded Houston team. The fielding percentage for Houston, the best in the region, 977, so don't expect them to make many mistakes. And both of those starters that I mentioned, Fletcher and Cumby, don't walk many guys. 76 strikeouts for Fletcher to just 17 walks in 85 innings. Cumby with 24 walks, but that's in 96 innings, and he's backed it up with 101 strikeouts on the year. You get into the bullpen, and it's much of the same with Aguilar, a 1.23 ERA, Henry at 2.17, Polito, 2.89. So Houston, very reliant on the arms, not going to score a ton of runs. It'll be very interesting to see how that one plays out. I think North Carolina matches up well against all 3 of these teams. You've got the depth pitching-wise, not just in the starters in Criswell and Delatry, but Bergner, who has experience coming out of the bullpen, Caden O'Brien. It was interesting to hear Coach Fox talk about Josh Hyatt today. He was extended in the ACC tournament, and he said that they did that for a reason. They've built him up to about 70 or 75 pitches. So maybe we see Josh Hyatt go for extended innings, or possibly even get a start if North Carolina makes it to Sunday and they need to use Bergner prior to that. But you get past them, and you've got Brett Daniels, who was one of the best pitchers in the ACC, and then all of the depth on the offensive side of things. And good news, Cody Roberts will be back, and Coach Fox said he'll be starting out in right field for the Tar Heels. So the rich get richer. A couple of injuries, nagging injuries for the Tar Heels throughout the year, but coming into postseason play, healthy, ready to go. And to be completely honest with you, I think we will be going on to the Super Regionals as long as North Carolina plays their game. Can't help what they do out there because we're not out there, but that's the breakdown of my regional. I think Houston is the most dangerous team to the Tar Heels, but I think in the end, North Carolina will come away with the victory. Maybe 4 games. It may not just be a 3-0 run through this region. They may need to play a doubleheader on Sunday, but I think the Tar Heels will come away with the win and move on to the Super Regionals. And if they do that, I'll have a breakdown of that one for you as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoy the games this weekend. I'm Kyle Straub. Let's go Heels.